All right, welcome back to another episode of Poncha Talk. My name is Ellie and I'm host of Poncha Talk. And in this podcast, we talk about all things related to remote work, living abroad, and any personal growth topics that come with switching up your lives and following your passion and dreams in life. And today we're going to have another solo episode, or a kind of solo episode, because I'm joined by Theo here. I'm not sure if he's in the shot. Theo, I think you have to move a little bit to be on the camera. Anyways, it's not my dog. It's a friend's dog that I'm dog sitting for the week while they're away in Morocco, actually. So it's been really nice having Theo for all of the love and cuddles, but also realized, okay, it's quite a lot of work to take care of a dog, and I actually have quite a lot going on in my life right now and busy days because, yeah, I'm right in the middle of starting over my new career, basically, and that's a lot of work. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about today. I wanted to take some time to share some of the lessons and behind the scenes of what it really means to switch up your careers entirely. So long story short, ever since I graduated, I worked in consulting for quite a few years, but I decided to leave my job. I took some time off, which is great. And then I slowly started trying out different passion project types to figure out what I wanted to do. And at the moment I still do some freelance consulting work, but now in a nonprofit setting, which is very different and very rewarding actually in a lot of ways. I obviously do the podcast, and then I've always loved travel blogging back in the days when I was still traveling a lot. So now I started a Madeira blog for while I'm here, and I'm actually selling travel guides and whatnot. So those are kind of the things that I'm trying to get started at the moment that I'm working on, to give you a little bit of background. And what I noticed is that, people always love to, cheer you on in these kind of decisions, at least in my surroundings, and I'm grateful for that. To leave my job when I moved here, when I started the podcast and the travel blog and more of the unusual type of things that not everybody does. I've been getting a lot of encouragement. But I also noticed, while it's super nice to receive those messages, probably a lot of people don't see the behind the scenes of all of the work and struggles that come with, giving up a decent career and starting fresh, and trying to build your own business, your new career now, because that requires a lot of uncomfortable shifts, mindset shifts, lifestyle shifts, and brings some internal struggles in terms of self-worth, finances, and whatnot. So today I will share all of that with you, behind the scenes of what I learned in this journey. So if you're going through something similar or you plan on quitting your career, here's a little insight, and hopefully you can relate and this helps you out in your transition as well. So let's get into it. Theo, do you want to come over here so that you can be in the shot? No, I will be quite distracted by the dog today if I haven't said that yet. But he's so cute. Anyways, let's start with probably the most obvious one, also for me, kind of the most uncomfortable one to talk about, namely money. Because, the last couple of years, I've always lived quite comfortably. I had a good paycheck. I could book flights pretty much every month. I was traveling somewhere, I was eating out, I was going out with friends, I was shopping online, and I never really had to worry about my credit cards being paid off, because I was making decent money. And I realized now that I'm looking back, that was actually a very comfortable position and quite a lot of freedom that I had that I probably didn't appreciate at the moment. But in looking back now, when I don't have all of this, I'm like, oh damn, I should have appreciated that more. Because now, well, I don't have a regular paycheck and I have to live off my savings for most of my spending, which is quite normal, I think, when you're changing up your career. It's, most likely you're going to have to start at the bottom with not as good as a pay, or especially when you're trying to build up your own business or freelance or whatever it is. The money in the beginning is not going to be stable. So that requires quite a lot of, changes in your spending habits and in your lifestyle. Like now, I don't really eat out anymore. I try to cook all the time. I only eat out when it's meeting up with friends. I don't shop online anymore at all, which is also because of like on Madeira, the shipping is terrible. But in general, I don't really shop any clothes anymore. I stick to free hobbies instead of paid ones, like hiking, running, volleyball. Those are all things that I do for free. I chose not to take dance lessons, even though pretty much everybody on Madeira now dances bachata. I don't know when the bachata movement started, but everybody loves to dance bachata. But I chose not to take lessons because I don't want to spend my money that way, just because, I want to be conscious of, what I spend my savings on, because they're not going to last forever, obviously. There's this Friends episode where Chandler, Monica, and Ross make a lot more money than the other three at the time. And then they go out to a fancy restaurant, and Jerry, Phoebe, and Rachel, they all only order like tiny dishes while the rest of them get like a 3-course meal. Then at the end, when it comes to like splitting the bill evenly or not, it turns into this whole thing of, them not having as much money and not spending as much and whatnot. And yeah, I kind of relate to that now. So sometimes it can feel a bit awkward, the whole money topic, which obviously is nobody's fault. And it's not like I have to watch every penny I spend, but in general, if I want to be cautious of my spending, that's just something I have to take a look at. So my point is, your relationship with money changes when you suddenly don't have a regular paycheck anymore. And it can be awkward because, unfortunately, also, just in the way our world operates, everything is kind of tied to money. Which also brings me to my second point. The one thing I never really thought about that is related to money is your self-esteem, if that makes any sense. When you're starting something new, a new career, a business, or whatever, and in the beginning, you're not going to make as much money, most likely, or you have to go through training or something first, and you're not going to have a paycheck. It's like our brains are so wired to having to make money, having to get the next promotion, having to get the next title, and just climbing the corporate ladder, which is honestly, it's so stupid in a way. Just because now I'm doing consulting for a nonprofit organization, which pays way less than before. Shouldn't mean that it's worth like any less, that my work is not worth as much, but honestly, it's quite the opposite. I think personally, I feel like my work now is much more meaningful and impactful than what I did previously, and I love that about it. So it's kind of important to cut the tie between self-worth and the amount of money that you're making, because that is just not always the truth. So that's a bit of a tricky one, honestly. Like especially in the beginning of when you're building your own business or you're starting a new career, your wins are gonna be quite small. But I learned that it's so important to celebrate even the small wins on your journey in order to keep you motivated, to keep going, to keep pushing. So, for example, I have this Madeira blog. Like, I've always loved travel blogging, even in my backpacking days. So now I switched up my blog to just be Madeira focused because that's just where I am. So I started writing this blog, and then actually I turned it into a lot of social media content, and I also created a Madeira travel guide that I now sell on my website, which I think is pretty cool. And the other day I sold another copy. I woke up to the email, oh, there's another order, and I was so excited. Like, I was so excited. Somebody actually went online, they found my profile, they found my blog, and they decided to purchase this travel guide that I created. And they even left a good review for it. They liked it. They spent money on it, and they liked what they got for it. So I thought that was pretty cool. But in the end, I got 20 euros for it. And later that day, I went to the grocery store. I had to get a few basics for the house, and I'd already spent more than 20 euros on just that. So basically that money was already gone again. And that was a bit of a humbling experience also. But regardless, I think it's so important to celebrate those small little steps that you're taking along the journey, because it is kind of a big deal, Even if it's just one sale, it is a big deal. And by now I have more than one sale. I have two. No kidding, I have two. But that's okay. There's gonna be more, I'm sure. And we'll celebrate each and every one of them to you, right? Yes. So yeah, I think that's the point. You have to keep celebrating the small wins to keep your motivation going, because if you wait for like a big milestones of 100 copies or whatnot, you will probably have to wait too long and get discouraged. At least I would. That's also another thing that I've noticed. Like in the beginning, progress is gonna feel quite invisible, and it'll be easy to like question yourself whether this was the right decision or not. And there's so much uncertainty, and it doesn't really look like anything is working out. Because especially when you're not just switching careers, but you want to also start your own business, like my travel business, for example, there's a lot of building and preparation in the beginning that you have to do. Like for me to just sell that one copy of this travel guide, I started months ago also just like taking a course in digital marketing and creation or whatnot. And then I had to drive all over Madeira and take pictures of everything. I had to put together all of the text and pictures and travel guide and create the online store and set up the website and write the blog and push it on social media. Like all these things took months for me to sell one copy, which now that I'm saying it out loud sounds a bit ridiculous. But maybe that was not the best idea. And it'll be easy to think like, is this even worth it? Does this make any sense? And I don't know if it does actually, but I think it's important in that situation to not compare yourself to other influencers that are already selling thousands of copies, for example, because what we usually don't see on social media and anywhere is exactly that beginning phase of building up. These other creators probably also spent the first months and maybe years building up all of their content and their following in order to get to that place. So I think it's very important to keep focusing on your own things and not compare yourself to others who have already achieved more. And also what I found really important is to not be afraid when you're in this building up phase where nothing really seems to be moving. Don't be afraid to share your progress with others and to share your plans with people who you trust in order to get feedback. Like, for example, the other day we had a tech meetup here in the community, and the idea of the tech meetup was for everyone to share their projects that they are currently working on in order to get feedback from the community, inspiration, and so whatnot. And in the beginning, actually, nobody wanted to share their project because everybody thought, oh, it's not ready yet. It's like we're still in the very beginning stages. But then one person actually started sharing. And in the end, I think we had, 5 or 6 people sharing their project because they all got such good feedback and inspiration from the community back and support that everybody wanted to share their project. And it was really nice to see, for one, how many people are working on side projects and how many cool ideas are out there. And it was also nice to see that, they're in this exact same phase that I was in. They're just putting together content, they're building an app, they're putting a website together, whatever it may be. And you don't get any return on it yet. Like this whole building up phase, you don't get anything back. You just have to push through, and then the feedback can really help. Because otherwise I think it's also easy to like get lost in your own thoughts and maybe you run off in the completely wrong direction. That's totally not what is the market demand at the moment. Because what I also noticed is, it's really important to have structures and clear goals when you're working in a new field on your own projects. Because, I left my job. I kind of left that whole structured life behind. And no more 9 a.m. daily stand-ups and whatnot. And in the beginning, that was great. And I was like, yes, I can do whatever I want. I can sleep in or not, stay up late. But it also can get messy quite quickly because without structure, it's really easy to lose focus and momentum. So I kind of had to build my own structure by, setting goals of like, how many followers do I want to have by the end of the month? How many podcast views? How many episodes and whatnot? Also, like my social media schedule gives me some structure. The fact that I'm releasing an episode every Thursday, I like kind of know what I'm doing throughout the week. So it's really important to find something like that will give you a little bit of structure while you're working on something new. And also have daily routines. Like this is another great thing of having Theo here now, right? Right, buddy? Yeah. Because, it's good to have him wake me up at 7 in the morning, forcing me to go on a run with him to get outside, because usually I would sleep in longer. But it's good for me also to get out in the morning, and then I can focus better, and then I can take another break to take him out again for lunch and whatnot. So it's good to have structure and daily routines. I talked about this even a long time back, actually, in one of my episodes, where I talked about finding balance in chaos, I think it was called. I will link it in the episode description if you're curious to learn more about building routines. I had some thoughts on that back then because routines are so important, but so are boundaries also. Like without structure, it's also easy to not have any boundaries anymore, especially if you commit to a new career in a new business. You have to remember, like, you're in it for a marathon. It's not a sprint, so you have to protect your energy also. And I noticed that actually a couple of weeks ago, all of a sudden I was so tired. And I realized I'm basically working on nonstop. I mean, I was working on fun passion projects that I really enjoy and travel blogs and travel guides and whatnot. But I noticed I'm pushing a bit too hard. Like I'm just spending all my energy on this and I'm not giving myself time to recharge also. So then I took a little step back and I also made more time to hang out with friends and to go out for a Sunday fun day and to go to community events and whatnot. Because you gotta live a little and enjoy time with friends also. As we've heard in so many of my episodes already, like, community is so important to have as a support system also while you're working on new things. So don't give that up and don't burn yourself out by hiding away. But the interesting thing about like community and support that I noticed in this stage of life is like a lot of people will cheer you on and like support what you're doing. And I love that when people message me, hey, I saw your podcast, it's really cool, keep it going, or about the travel blog, it's so nice, I want to come to Madeira, it's great inspiration. And those are really nice messages, but a lot of times I think like these people probably don't see the behind the scenes, which makes total sense because I mean, behind the scenes is my personal life that I don't share on social media. That's one of the, well, now I share it on the podcast. But generally, people don't see the behind the scenes of, me watching all of my spendings and working late at night to just write another travel blog that's gonna get 10 views, if even, and all these little steps that I've been taking over the last couple months that take so much time at work. A lot of people will not understand it, and that's totally fine. But it's also important to find like a few people who have a deep understanding of what's going on. And this is also why I'm so grateful for the community here in Madeira, because there's so many people here in the community that have started their own business, that understand the struggle of like how long it takes to build something new. So I would really suggest to anybody, try to find a community that supports you, that understands your career change, your new business, whatever it may be, whether it be in person like here in Madeira or even online. There's so many communities, entrepreneur communities, just whatever it may be that you need to support yourself and to get feedback from people in similar situation and whatnot. So yeah, starting a new career, starting a new business is not necessarily as glamorous and fun as it maybe seems. It's quite uncomfortable. It's humbling in a lot of ways. It forces you to take a hard look at your habits and lifestyle. But at the same time, it's so fulfilling, and it's so full of opportunity. And I'm so excited to be in a place where I now work on things that I truly enjoy. So that's really nice to see. And hopefully everything will work out as it's supposed to be. So if you're in this phase too, maybe you can relate to some of the things that I've rambled about today. And maybe you find this helpful. If you know somebody who's going maybe through the same thing, feel free to share the episode. Feel free to leave me a comment and a thumbs up. And don't forget to also follow along at Poncha Talk on social media for any future episodes and more topics about life abroad, traveling, and having your own business. If you're curious about my travel blog, it is at your_Madeira on social media or your-madeira.com. I will link it in the description of the episode as well. So thanks again for being here, for listening to the episode, and best of luck on your journey in the future. And I will see you again next week. Thank you. Bye.